Hey, this is Lukulu, your host for this video. At first, I want to make some things clear. Firstly, I am not and never will be a twinker. It's just not a playstyle that appeals to me. Secondly, I know that there is a lot of harm that is caused by twinkers. No doubt about that. With that out of the way, I want to elaborate a point I made in the podcast of my fellow YouTuber Sam Maxis. A great guy, by the way, go check him out. It was a point about something I hadn't really thought about at the time, but had the urge of putting it out there. Now that I had more time to really think about it, it became pretty clear that there is a point that has to be made there. And that is what I'm trying to do with this video. So let's get started. Firstly, I should probably explain what a twinker is. To make it short, a twink build is a build where you stay low level on purpose, but still progress in the game to get endgame gear and then later come back to the early levels and have an unfair advantage in fights. They are also one of the most hated subgroups in our community, as if you weren't already aware of that. Probably deserve to, but that's kind of the point. Let me explain that. Next, I want to define a concept I'm going to use to describe the positive outcomes I ascribe to being invaded by a twink as a new player. You probably heard of the psychological phenomenon called the flight or fight response. But for those who haven't, it is a classification for the responses of a person to being in a stressful situation. For example, if someone would call you out for using Moonveil in front of a crowd of invaders, there are two classes of responses a person can perform. You could think that you are right to use Moonveil because it's in the game, or you don't feel that threatened by the angry mob, so you stand there and argue your point. That would be the fight response. If you read the situation differently and think that this might not end well for you, you run away and or hide. That would be the flight response. Even small actions, like placing a wine glass in between you and your boss at a business meeting, can be interpreted as a flight response. I am from here on out calling the flight or fight response the FOF. Why yes, I am very creative, thank you. With that knowledge in mind, we have to identify the instances in an invasion where you are forced to choose between fight or flight. The first and obvious one is when you, as a new player, encounter the invader. You can stay, fight and most likely die, or you can run, hide and most likely die. Those two scenarios don't seem so different, and that is because they are not. The really important instance of the FOF is the one that happens as soon as you die. Do you flee from any further situations that could end similarly, or do you want to fight and improve to become the one that causes the FOF? Even if you chose flight the first few invasions, by the virtue of you listening to this, I can surmise that you changed your attitude at some point. You have had enough one day, as had I a few years back. I just wanted to get the Covenant Reliant trophies in Dark Souls 3. I did not enjoy getting them at first because it was pretty slow. I was scared, and when I invaded as an Aldrich Faithful in Gang City, I just ran away and hoped that they would fall off something or someone else would kill them for me. But I had one encounter with a squad of 3 Havel monsters. You can imagine how it went. And I just had enough. I started binging tutorials on YouTube. I taught myself how spacing works, what true combos are, and which ones there were for the weapons I ran at the time. And now look at me. Without bastards like these, I would never sit here writing this. Choosing battle, hardship and challenge over comfort and predictability was the moment I fell in love with the online mode of these games. Twinkers, gankers, point down spammers and the like bring you to the edge and give you the last push you need to get it. Teaching new players that is of vital importance, and that is what twinkers unknowingly do.
Like gravity, all it takes is a little push.
It might drive people who might have loved the mechanics away from online, and that is unfortunate. But that is a price I am willing to pay for the absolute achievement it is to make someone feel on top of the world for just starting to get something. You would never get that when you went into these games with the expectation of liking the online play. Only if you're afraid of it but then conquer it can you truly experience what I felt back when I first started winning some of my fights. Now you might ask why normal invasions couldn't fill this role. Yes, they can, but there's a difference between being beaten in a fair battle and being beaten in an unfair one. These games are not fair. It's part of the world and something to be embraced. It's just that much more to overcome. And the more you overcome, the more profound is the feeling of achievement you get. All of this is for people that are at least marginally interested in PvP. What about the single player players who still want to appreciate the message system? Being invaded by a twink spells certain death for them. For these people, I can only say that I see invasions as an anecdote generator. What kinds of anecdotes you create is entirely in your hands. Let it be a 15-minute chase, a hide and seek with a climactic battle, or a surprise attack from an ambush. Death is a core part of these games and bears little consequences. The experience you had leading to your death could never have been put into code and is unique to you. That is what invasions exist for. And that has been Lukulu, your host of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.